inner career. Today, as the first guest, we have Vidya Minukuri. He is the Global Head of Data Science at Convergence Inc. with over 20 years of experience building data and analytics capabilities from the ground up across multinational organizations worldwide. He grew up from IT engineer into an executive leadership role. Welcome, Vidya.
Thank you, Hima. That was a great introduction, and thank you for having me in this podcast.
Let's kick on the first episode of The Inner Career. Beyond the titles, beyond the LinkedIn profile.
Sure, let's do it. Thank you.
Yeah, to start with, I would like to have a small icebreaker challenge with you. Just to make conversation easier for us. It's very simple. I'll give you two important things in career, and you have to make a choice, one of them, and just a one line why you picked that. That should be good start for us. So let's begin with the icebreaker challenge. Speed or clarity?
Clarity trumps the speed.
Why do you think so?
You can do, things like very fast, but without having the required clarity, I don't think the result is that efficient.
Right, yeah. And the next one is recognition or fulfillment?
Fulfillment, because the fulfillment really gives you inner peace and then, sense of achievement inside, which I think is, much better than getting recognized simply for the sake of outside world.
Totally, yeah. And the last one is urgent or important?
I would say important, because urgency is subjective, depending on who is looking at it, from whose perspective it is. Important can be argued as subjective too, but I would classify important things are you must pay attention to, otherwise you probably will lose something otherwise.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this. This is really amazing. I hope it gave a good start for the icebreaker challenge and the next theme that we have in the inner career. So let's move on to our actual theme, seasons. At Inner Career, we believe that each season shapes us in its own way. For example, spring, it brings us beginnings, summer, the growth, fall, breaks and pauses, and winter, healing and resetting. So this podcast is about understanding the season that you are in, and behind the titles, the inner career journey that you have been through. So let's first start with our first season, spring. We talk about mostly beginnings, the fresh starts, whatever it could be in your career journey. We would like to understand, when you started your career, what was the journey before you had your title?
Sure. To be honest with you, I don't think I remember the first title I had in my career. But I strongly remember, the unlimited energy that I started my career with. At that age, at that time, everything feels possible. Your mind is like wandering everywhere, and you want to achieve everything, learn everything, prove yourself to everybody. And you genuinely believe that success is like almost like an instant coffee, and it's always almost guaranteed. It's in a way, it's kind of a gift, because that energy is the starting step that makes you experiment and explore, and also you believe that you can create change by just having a perspective. You can achieve anything, and you see, like, you read inspirational stories, and then you think that if everybody can succeed in those stories, like, why not you? And and then at the same time, your energy gets rewarded. When you're young, right? A lot of people around you appreciate you, rewards you, just to keep you motivated. And at some point, like, it becomes addictive as well. You're like seeking constantly, that appreciation as a beginner. And but the biggest gift I would think is, that energy, that motivation opens doors for the rest of your career. And but eventually, the clarity and patience uh, keep them open. But you know, I strongly think, that level of energy, is what led me, to this stage in my career.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that journey with us. Yeah, the energy matters most. Okay, let's move on to summer season, and it talks about the success, the growth, and the balance moments. So I would like to ask you about when things are going well, what felt good on outside and what was missing inside.
Sure. When everything was good from the outside, like everything looked perfect, people recognize you at work, people recognize you outside in the society, and you feel accomplished, with that respect that you gain, from everybody. But there were too many secrets inside, myself, that yeah, whatever I did isn't really that great, and there could be so much that could still be achieved. And and then you also realize that there are lots of gaps that only you knew that you didn't do well, that no one is able to recognize or realize that. And that was a kind of a realization I got during that phase. And I also felt doing good work isn't just enough. If you really want to change something, your perspective is not enough. You have to almost convince somebody else to make that change happen, which is far more difficult. You know, everybody can have a perspective, but try to convincing somebody else to follow your path is the most difficult path. But believe me, you can create a bigger impact and change. When you take others along the way and get others convinced with your perspectives. So that was a realization. And only experience really teaches you that. And luckily, I had that during early stages of my career.
Wonderful.
And I also realized that no matter how good you are at work, mistakes happen. Like, it's part and parcel of the progress that you make in your career. I used to still remember. I remember famous movie quote that perfectly suits that situation. So the tree that bears the most fruit is the one that gets hit the most. So the more you do good work, the mistakes are tend to happen, bound to happen, and people can point you out, point your mistakes, along with your success stories. And then it's really part of the system. So I then realized that thinking about process more than a problem is essential, because if you think around process, probably there are enough guardrails that can protect from your mistakes. And if you only think about problem, you may just solve a problem and then eventually you end up doing mistakes. So prior to that, I didn't know that process is really required. At that point in time, I realized, and then started respecting the process, right? So eventually it rewards you over time. So and then the most biggest part at that stage was everything used to change so quickly. There was nothing else that is constant except the change itself, right? So you have to almost appreciate the change that is going around you, and don't get settled in anything. Don't stop for anything, right? So keep learning. That no, it's easy to say that, but you would feel much more satisfied, if you experience that moment where it teaches you that, okay, don't just stop, and keep learning and keep growing. So that was
That's
about my mid-career
Thank
stage.
you so much. That's amazing, and I love the advice that you gave. Yeah, it's not easy. It's definitely a big learning for anyone in the career at every stage. I totally can relate from what you have mentioned. Thank you.
It's great to know.
So we successfully moved to autumn season, and it's all about shifts and falls or breaks, everything. So I would like to ask you, what did you have to let go of to grow beyond your role?
Yeah, I think like for many people, right? So I struggled with that, phase of stagnation, where you feel like you have done to a great extent, and you don't know what else to do to get from there to the next level. So you feel kind of stuck, and you feel like you're doing everything perfect, but you're not getting to the next level, what you want to. And this phase was really tough to deal with, and you know it was holding me back, even to do the good things that I used to do prior to that. So the biggest thing I learned during that phase is it's not about doing more things, and as they say the phrase, less is more. So you really do things more, like better. You may not, like, you try to give up that attitude of doing everything yourself, and achieving everything. In a normal course of life, it's not possible to attack and do everything, and try to give importance to the quality over quantity, and try to give importance to the strategic thinking, constructive. And then I realized, really, after all, right, so organizations, they don't reward people just for doing more work. They reward people to do work at a bigger scale, reward work that creates impact. It's not just about doing things yourself, it's about really about getting things done and showing that impact. And that institutional thinking, from a individual thinking, that gets you reward, and that shows the path for the next level that you hope to get there. And eventually I was recognized, and got into the higher level roles, when I had to, when I really experienced and made some changes in my thinking further along the line.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this reminds me that smart work versus hard work, what works best. And what's your thought on that, based on your journey for 2 decades? What do you think, smart work or hard work?
I think both are required, you know, depending on the situation, I would say. Uh, I mean, there is no shortcut to, success, right? You still have to work hard. Some people get there by probably, using some shortcuts, but it's up to you to figure out those shortcuts. And that's what people call it as smart work. But, in my own words, it's the effort that you put there, to even do that smart work.
We are now into our last season, winter, which is about pauses and reflections. I would like to know about like how you handle a difficult pause in your career. What did you learn about yourself?
Sure. I always thought, growth is an upward straight line. But, this was the stage when I realized, no matter what you do, sometimes you don't get the result that you intend to see. And growth is never an upward straight line. So it's more like a curve, the more it goes up, and it's only a matter of time, it can come down, and then, eventually you have to bounce back. And the thing that taught me was that phase really taught me a simple word: humility. Being grounded, being humble, keeps you going. And at some point, no matter how hard you try, you may not see the result. So learning to accept that, it can happen. Learning to accept that not everything you touch is going to become a gold. can strengthen yourself and then takes you to that next level. But because mind is a biggest problem, right? So it keeps you let down sometimes because of all those thoughts, and then that's where I started believing the principle of karma, which is nothing but which simply says, do your work sincerely and let the work speak for itself, and you don't worry about the result. So it was good to read as an inspirational quote, but prior to that, but that was a phase when I actually realized, how important it is to be humble, to be grounded, and do your work, and not worry too much about the result. And because the pause and the breaks teaches you patience and resilience, which is really required, because career is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So it was important for me to realize that to be in the game for a longer time, I had to learn those qualities. I had to make adjustments to myself with those qualities.
Yeah, thank you so much for a very brief explanation and taking us through your experiences and learnings. Thank you for that. And with this, we have completed all 4 seasons. And as a closing note, I just have one question for you. If your younger self is listening to us today, what advice would you give him?
Yeah, if I had to tell myself as a youngster, I would say don't overthink too much about your career, and don't be anxious. Be thoughtful and be strategic, but don't be anxious. The opportunities will come. You just have to look around. Keep looking for those opportunities, and don't be fearful of trying things. And mistakes are bound to happen, and just accept it's part and parcel of the game. And I remember that movie dialogue which says the end is always the best, and if it's not good yet, it's not really the end. So and another important thing I would tell myself is there's no perfection in the world. Don't look for that perfect solution, and then don't let the fear hold you back, and don't be stuck, and keep trying and see where it takes you. Over time you will eventually succeed if you do the things appropriately. So that's what I would tell myself, and hopefully that's an piece of advice for all the youngsters starting to build their careers.
Thank you for sharing that. Looks like you watch a lot of movies. Lot of learnings I hear from the movies.
Well, yeah, anything good anywhere, right? So I do take it seriously.
Thank you for your time again. And I'm glad to launch this podcast series with you.
Thank you very much, Hima. Thank you for having me on this call.